Well, hello and welcome back to the Adventures in Advising podcast. This is Matt Markin, and I am super thrilled to get to interview our special guest today. And that is Chad Cain from Texas Tech University. Chad, hello, sir.
Matt, hello there. Great to connect with you.
Yeah, and Chad, from what I understand, you are a Hub City native. You've served in multiple university settings. You are part of the Honors College community at Texas Tech. You do directing, enrollment management, admission functions, oversee course scheduling. I also understand you enjoy reading the Los Angeles Times and listening to NPR, and you also like to run. So I feel like we're going to have a fun conversation today.
All correct. I also ingest an inordinate amount of coffee. I'll add that to the list. But I think you summed it up well, Matt.
Do you have a special coffee order that you usually get?
Well, I noticed and this isn't just at one Starbucks, this is at multiple. When I walk in the door and, multiple baristas will say, Chad, we're going to get your drink started. I feel, very flattered. Two, I also feel like I might have an issue with overconsumption.
Well, especially because you walk in, they know you already on a first name basis.
They do. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we'll take it as it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Chad, tell me about your path, your journey in higher ed. What's your origin story?
Yeah. Well, I like to tell students that I'm equipping them to do something I wasn't able to do, and that is to leave college successfully. I happen to be a professional, like others in this line of work, that there's continuity since when I was a freshman in college to now, totally in my professional life being connected to higher education. And the way I've, phrased that, it occurs to me, that may sound like it, I'm in a prison, and all I'm sharing now is just, a byproduct of Stockholm syndrome. But the reality is I feel very fortunate. And it's very much the product of amazing mentors, exemplars right off the bat. To see meaningful things could be done in a college setting, in a grad school setting. And so I'm privileged, as you mentioned in the intro. I've worked in multiple settings in higher education, big colleges, small colleges, public, private. Those that, would be known pretty much all over the globe, and some that are maybe not even known in their own region. But interestingly, now work at a university, Texas Tech, that, speaking of an origin story, back when I was young, was the first university or college I had any conception of. I was born in Lubbock, grew up in Lubbock and in Austin. My parents actually met at the state capitol when they both worked there. And my dad continued to work for the state. So growing up, I toggled between Lubbock and Austin in Texas. So my dad is a proud Texas Tech Red Raider alum. My mom happened to go to the University of Texas as Austin. So the first university that came onto my radar was Texas Tech. The second university was the University of Texas at Austin. As anyone who's in either of those camps would tell you, they don't always play well in the sandbox. But what's been fascinating is now I'm, of course, privileged to work at Texas Tech. I'm also the proud parent of a daughter who's a Texas Tech alum. And as of a few months ago, the proud father of a daughter who's a University of Texas at Austin alum. So it's really interesting to see how that continuity has continued over the years. But as a professional doing what we do, Matt, it's wonderful to give to a university that has a deep connection with my origin story. And it's exciting to see where that's going to go in the future with the amazing students we serve.
And I also heard that you married your college sweetheart.
I did. So I actually went to college a few miles up the road here in West Texas, Wayland Baptist University. At that point on the journey, there was the thought I would go into ministry of some sort. I think people who know me now would give a pretty deep chuckle with that. but that's where, first and foremost, I met my wife of now 20, I'm doing the math real quickly in my head, 28 years, who you would think in that time frame she would realize she could do better, but for whatever reason, it could continue to fool her. But I have memories at Wayland, my freshman year. She was an upperclassman at that point. And if, you can do the math. If you look at us now, you would not associate her with being a little older than me. Very much visually, I look much older than her. But met her there at Wayland. That's where I learned a lot of fortitude and discipline, because I had to work hard to even get her on a date. But it's paid off. The other thing, as it relates to professionally, as I mentioned, starting in college, working in admissions, which I continue to do now, also working in kind of student activities, really where the fire was lit as a professional there. And most importantly, having some amazing influences and mentors that, were established in that setting that I continue to, call friends today and continue to benefit from the connections I have.
Yeah, well, let's roll right into that. Let's shout out who are some of those mentors and what made them important to you, and how have they helped shape how you think about student support?
Yeah, well, in that setting, I'll actually go back to a campus visit. I believe it was my junior year of high school, and went to campus with my mom, I remember, and she knew some folks who had pretty deep connections at Wayland, and had the good fortune during that visit to sit in the office of the director of admissions. His name was Claude Lusk. And Claude had gone to Wayland and had continued working there, and is elevated as a professional to become the director. And I just remember in that conversation, in that setting, it just felt very this probably won't be too much of a surprise to you, Matt. Probably fairly socially awkward as a high school junior. I'm sure Claude had to work really hard to make the conversation feel natural, but he did. And what was amazing is, in making college choices, and ironically, my college choices were Wayland, Tech, and UT. And like I said, I think at that point in my journey, feeling kind of the identity I had, and the calling I had, heading Wayland's direction, but knowing that person was on the other side gave me a lot of confidence. And what's really amazing is, while I was there as a student and as a very young professional, Claude kind of took me under his wing and gave me more than I could ever give back to him, or really probably give to anyone else. Gave me opportunities, was there when I messed up, gave me a kind word, whether I deserved it or not. And what's really amazing is, later on in my professional, and I'm talking like over 2 decades later, had the privilege of reconnecting with him as a professional when he was then the executive vice president at Wayland. And I worked as his director of admissions. So it's kind of a full circle moment, but having the privilege of that reconnection with somebody who still means the world to me was amazing. I'll mention someone else too really quickly. This is somebody you happen to know, Matt, because he works on your campus, probably a few short steps from where you're at. That, of course, is David Defoe Hunter, who now Vice President of Enrollment Management and Strategic Initiatives, or some fancy title like that at Cal State San Bernardino. And it's funny, if he listens to this podcast, I think he won't be accustomed to me talking about him in such flowery language. As you've seen firsthand, when we get together, there's a lot of sarcasm and, not a lot of flowery language, but David means the world to me. I had the privilege of connecting with him when I went to grad school in Southern California at Fuller Theological Seminary. And I, as a full-time student with my wife, we were only married at that point for a couple years. Due to life circumstances, primarily, we found out she was pregnant and bringing our first child into the world, the now Texas Tech grad. So I pivoted to looking for opportunities to work on campus. Something in admissions opened up. very fortunate to make a connection with that team. And then a few months later, there was some shifting, I guess, with the upper level leadership on the team. And they brought in this guy named David, who had been the director of financial aid at Fuller Seminary. He was a graduate there. And what I remember there, and this would have been 26 years ago, basically the year 2000, is he came in and there was a little bit of, a little chaotic and a little bit of, fires under the surface, if not over the surface. And that's what he kind of walked into. I'd like to think I didn't contribute much to that, into, the stress that he endured. But I just remember the grace and the skill and the care that he exhibited. And working through on a collective level with our team, working through with individuals, and really leading an unprecedented level of success with admissions at the seminary. And I learned a lot from just having an opportunity just to work on his team there. Remained very impressed with his ability to kind of know grandeur thoughts about leadership and motivating people and how he applies that. I'm very much the beneficiary of it. And just his ability to connect with people at whatever level, whether it's a high-minded conversation or, talking about the latest Dodger game and ingesting too many Dodger dogs. And I don't think my bandwidth is as great as his, but I really, and again, I hate if he hears this, he's going to get a really big head, but I have to admit it is well earned. I have benefited from your vice president over there in the Dino, David, and the example he's been to me as a professional.
Oh, no, I'm going to be sure to tag him when this episode gets live. And I'm going to say, listen to this stretch of the podcast where Chad talks about you. But I mean, that we kind of had, we had that connection because, he does work at Cal State San Bernardino. But I remember when I was in February of last year, I went to the Honors College Conference that you all were hosting at your institution. And I remember you coming up to me and saying, "Hey, you work at Cal State San Bernardino. Do you know David DeVoe Hunter?" And at that point, I had only heard about him. I had never met him. And you just said, if you see him, tell him I said, hey. Mm-hmm. And it was December or January of this year where we were kind of communicating through email, and you kind of said the same thing. If you see him, let him know. I said hi. And it was just a couple days later, I was walking out of the building, go to Starbucks, and I was like, I think that's David. And I went and introduced myself, and my immediate question was like, you know Chad Cain? And he was surprised face, like, yeah, how do you know him?
I'm just glad a lot of profanity wasn't uttered at that moment.
But we had a great conversation, and he was like, you know what? Chad's actually coming to campus to visit. You should come and hang out with us. And I'm like, I'm there. If Chad's there, I'll be there.
That was a lot of fun.
Oh, yes, it was. And so let's talk about your role at Texas Tech. So you're assistant dean of the Honors College. What does that mean in terms of what are your responsibilities? What do you do day to day?
Well, man, I maybe we need to consult your co-host on this podcast, Ryan Shekel. I feel like I need to ask him what I need to be doing day to day. He seemed, at least from me peering at what he does from this vantage point, has gotten things figured out in his realm. I'm hoping to get there in mine, but I'm sure you hear this on podcasts like this, Matt, when you pose this type of question, that every day feels different. And you would think after doing this work for most of 26 years, I would have figured out kind of some level of standardization, but I have yet to figure that out. But actually, for me, that's part of what is appealing. And I'm very privileged in this role with how our dean, Dr. Jill Hernandez, has shaped the opportunities that I have to align kind of with just how I'm wired. And that's to be kind of connected. Admissions and recruitment, I've just had the good fortune of doing as a professional, and, working in that side of the house, but also getting to work with our faculty. I had a deep connection with our advising function, which really has improved me in admissions and recruiting and working with faculty and all the other facets, and given me a greater appreciation of kind of how it all comes together. You know this. Good enrollment management is, recruitment and admissions, bringing people in the front door. It's also retention, being very vigilant with the back door, and making sure students that we're serving, as they approach the back door to move on to the future they're choosing, they're doing that successfully, and that we've played a part in them maximizing opportunities. Yeah, so my responsibilities in this role very much it's not I would say a conventional arrangement, talking to other people who have like similar titles. I've yet to meet a person who has kind of the purview that I have, but I feel really privileged because every day I do get to make meaningful connections, first and foremost with our students, but with an amazing collection of colleagues that include our faculty, include our advisors, including other professionals that serve our students exceptionally well. The faculty that we have here, and and I'm sure Ryan has clued you in. Tech's a pretty great place to work, especially just with the people who we get to rub elbows with day to day. So I hope my boss doesn't hear this, because she could read in between the lines that I would pretty much do the work for free. But maybe she would read other things.
Yeah, hopefully.
It is a privilege, though.
Yeah. No, and you mentioned unconventional, and when I've chatted with a couple of staff members within your office, and I said, "Tell me about Chad," like all glowing things that they say about you, but the one thing they do say is like, "We don't know how he does it because of all the different types of responsibilities you have," and they too kind of use different terminology, but it comes across as like very unconventional in this type of role. But they're like, we don't know how he has the energy to do it, especially with all the travel that you have to do as well.
Well, they're very kind, and they're part of the motivation to do well. I'm sure you experience this dynamic, Matt, and I'm sure you contribute to it when you work alongside really good people who do good things. You want to keep up, and you want to do your part. And so for me, that's a driver, because I could say that about them as well. I mean, that's kind of the part of working at Texas Tech, is working on really good people, really impressive people, also very kind people. And so I'll give a very specific example where I was a beneficiary of this. Recently experienced a loss in my family, and obviously necessitated disconnection from this work and being with family and everything that went with that. What's wonderful is just knowing that, I leave that behind, but I leave it behind and it's going to be okay. And I don't have to do all the planning. I don't have to figure everything out. I work with good people who do that for me. And then when circumstances are different, I want to be a part of that, where if something happens or somebody needs to be away, that I'm contributing to helping them out in that process. And I think as I haven't learned, I probably should have learned more as a professional, but what I have learned is doing better at letting go, and then, gripping tightly when that needs to be done. Maybe have a better sense of that than I did as a younger professional. But as you coming to our conferences, being on our campus, I'm sure got a sense of there's just some really great people who work at this university.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Now, you've helped drive significant growth in the Honors College, building partnerships, visiting schools. Is there a philosophy or principle that guides your outreach work that you do?
Well, if I called it like a philosophy, I think it may be too highfalutin. I have learned a few things. One, I would say, is influencing the influencers. And so in the work of recruitment and admissions, obviously you're making meaningful connections with students, with families who are making big decisions and considering, hopefully great options, and maybe preparing for that, or maybe engaged in that, or maybe as they're making the transition to be served by a wonderful advising team. That's important. But what's also important, I would say, from a kind of a higher level perspective, is making meaningful connections with the people who influence them. guidance counselors, teachers, coaches, people in faith communities, things like that. And because there you get the benefit of that connection. And for me, just as someone who's wired to be a little curious, I always love just hearing about people doing other lines of work and getting to know them. And in fact, we have an event on campus that have brought a lot of guidance counselors from the state. Matt, you'll also be pleased to hear, I think 2 or 3 are from California, a few other states as well. We had a nice dinner with them on Tuesday, and just sitting at the table hearing about how they engage with students, the rewards, the challenges, but each of them were examples of, over the years, doing exceptional work for their students. And so it's great to get to know folks like that, and for them to know what's going on in our neck of the woods. And we do that, one, because it's great things. So it's wonderful representing a place where it's just natural to talk about what's going on and to do that. It's also with the perspective of we're all here to serve the student and the families to make the best decision for them. I've never felt like this is like a sales job. I mean, there may be some sales principles that can come in handy. But my role and the work of people who do recruitment and admissions, I feel is best done if you're not twisting arms or trying to manipulate decisions or anything like that. It's just being present with those folks. And again, having good connections with people who are also part of their conversations and considerations as well. So yeah, I would say that's just something that I have seen more than anything just rewarding for me, but also plays some yield some dividends with the success we're having. The other thing is I feel I do best when I get our current honor students in front of students who are considering joining the honors community and doing that well. And really my role is to give those students confidence and for them to authentically talk about their experience and to make connections of their experience with the experience of the high school senior, junior, sophomore who's considering joining us. And in my job, I get to do that. Just yesterday, we had an appointment from a family who traveled from California, and I had 3 of our students a part of that conversation. And at the end, the dad, it was the mom and dad and the prospect who were joining us. Wonderful conversation, thoughtful questions by the student and the families. Loved the contributions our students made. And at the end, the dad said, I just feel like I need to tell you, we visited a lot of great colleges. This is the first time I have had meaningful interactions, and my son has had meaningful interactions with current students. That gives me a tremendous sense of pride. And so I think my job is just kind of putting our students in a position where they can have those meaningful connections with prospects.
So I was going to wait to bring this up towards the end, but I'm going to bring it up now based off how you answered that question. And I think it kind of connects everything that you've been saying and how people actually think about you, because I found a Reddit thread of a student who,
oh boy.
Yeah. No, it is good. I kind of got a little teared up when I read it. I was like, oh, this definitely represents Chad. So the student ended up writing, I have a 1250 SAT. Should I submit to the honors college? And they're referring to your honors college at Texas Tech. Online, it says the minimum requirement is 1,300. So I was just wondering if they would automatically reject me if I submitted my score of 1250. And so someone responded, and I'm assuming this is a student, and said, I don't know if they would auto-reject you, but if you email Chad Cain and tell him you're worried about being auto-rejected, even though you think you would be a good candidate, he'll look into it. And then someone else replied and said, agreed, we drove to Lubbock and met with Chad. He's a good guy and will give you the best advice. And then I don't know if it was the first person that responded or if this was someone else, but the other response to that was, I'll be graduating from the honors college in a few months. There's nothing Chad won't help you with.
Wow. Well, I should have mentioned this before. You have to keep your bribery schedule in line to have, comments like that on Reddit. Oh, That's very kind. I've been on a few Reddit threads. I haven't been on ones that reference me, probably just for my own mental well-being. But it's really cool as a professional to bring in other perspectives and kind of realms of our being. And for me, that's being a parent. I mentioned 2 daughters that I'm very proud were successful in their college careers and have successfully made it to the other side. Also the parent of a high school sophomore, ironically, whose birthday is today. So shout out to Liam.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Made another lap around the celestial ball. And is obviously a prospect and thinking about next steps. So a lot of this I found is like as a parent and, you being very gracious and allowing me to talk about an origin story, even my own experiences eons ago, drawing from that. And a principle, and Matt, you embodied this exceptionally well, is serving others in the way that you would hope to be served. And I saw that when my daughters were looking at colleges, and obviously they made different decisions as far as destinations. But what I really appreciated is that was an opportunity for them to make meaningful connections with professionals who help them out. And it played out well for them. I'll share really quickly, my daughter who came to Texas Tech, we had a conversation after she had, and her deciding to come here, if anything, me sitting in the seat I do was a strike against the university. So Texas Tech started out in the deficit, but even despite her old man working here, she decided to come. But when she made the decision, I sat her down and I said, Abby, I'm going to tell you 2 things about you being a student here and me working here and the role I do. 1, I am not your get out of jail free card. So if something happens and you got to work through something, don't just think you can come to my office, shed a tear, I make a phone call, and it's all worked out. But 2, working here in the way I do, I know there are people here committed to your success. Advisors, faculty, people who work that can benefit you on all realms of your being. They are here. You just have to find them. And to her credit, she kept up the bargain. And so it's kind of like being that person when, because we've all been there. Like, am I going to make the cut? I just need a little bit of form guidance. I just need to kind of talk things through with somebody. And being that person that other people have been to me and my family is a big part of the motivation. And again, working amongst a team who I think exhibits that really well.
Well, let's talk about you mentioned the team. So let's talk about the Honors College. What can you tell me about the Honors College at Texas Tech?
Oh, goodness. Well, our dean, I think, sums it up very well, is the word is out about the good things going on at the Texas Tech Honors College. We had a meeting yesterday. It's a meeting that was kind of more budgetarily anchored, so a lot of dollar signs discussed. And I just got to say, I don't operate well in, those type of meetings. So I just tried to sit there and keep my mouth shut unless I could contribute something. But part of it was talking about good enrollment management, retention, definitely. And what's been inspiring is over the past few years, under the leadership we have, working with the team we have, and I'll shout out particularly the advisors, because obviously they are key in the meaning that what honors can do to benefit the student while they're here and where they're going. And so we have an exceptional team of advisors who, as I'm sure you are looking ahead to fall, in the thick of it. That's why I'm impressed you're doing this podcast, because I'm sure your calendar is fairly full with appointments.
Oh, yeah. After this, I roll into back-to-back appointments till the end of the day.
That is not a surprise. That's also very similar to our advisor schedule. With that, though, knowing that our students are going to be well served in making those connections. And again, for what opportunities they'll have that's facilitated through honors, so honors courses, great research opportunity, study abroad, funding, a great classroom to career initiative. So the focus is meaning while you're here, making that meaningful, but also this being a springboard to success where you're going. As far as that, so the retention aspect is wonderful. But also And we see just that in just, if you just look at the raw numbers of our retention rate, have grown to levels that I have not seen in any of the other 5, institutions I've worked at. And then the part of the house I get to work in, the front door, is with some initiatives that we've had, I think some synergy. It doesn't hurt that having a football team that did pretty well this year, basketball done well. Our softball team is, if not number 1 in the nation, then right up there. So getting some good pub, from things like that. But also with honors, I think being more proactive and talking about how we can uniquely benefit students who, some of which know their honors and kind of move in this direction because it aligns with what they did in high school. But increasingly, it's students who may have not identified themselves as honors students or honors caliber, but we see it in them, and us being more proactive of welcoming them into the community. And so, I would just sum up Tech Honors is we're kind of have a wonderful dynamic now of solid retention, solid recruitment. And what makes me a little nervous is, as a professional, and kind of the way I'm wired, I tell people I've learned how to handle failure. One, because I've experienced it so much, and I guess the skin has thickened along those lines. I don't know if I handle success very well, so that may be why I get an extra side of espresso in, just to see if we can handle that. But it is, I don't take it for granted, being a part of a wonderful community and us having the connections, serving students we do, and of course, seeing the great things they move on to, which is as much of a motivator in what we do as anything else.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about maybe some of that, like within some of the things that, some of the many responsibilities that you have, you're also the contact for Honors Pathway program. So like the University to Medical School Initiative, the Early Admissions Program. Can you tell me more about those programs and maybe what makes those pathways meaningful for students?
Yeah, most certainly. I just had the privilege yesterday evening of having a virtual connection with several of our current students in the first program you referenced, University to Medical School Initiative. We like acronyms, as I'm sure you do as well. So UMSI. So these are our UMSIs. The med school just last week made admission decisions for the newest crop of UMSI. So I'll give a little context for your listeners. This is an opportunity for high school seniors as they're applying to Texas Tech into the Honors College to also apply to the med school as a high school senior. No surprise, the eligibility standards set by the med school are very high. It's a very competitive opportunity, but it does yield acceptances for a certain number of high school seniors. So these are students that still probably 2 months away will walk the graduation stage, but they have already been notified they are accepted to med school. So long as they come to Tech or honor students can meet the continuing eligibility requirements as undergrads, which the vast, vast, vast majority do. And if they do that, their spot in med school is waiting for them 4 years down the road. And the med school also waives the MCAT, which is obviously a very important metric for med schools in making these decisions. But they have the confidence of offering admissions in that way at that stage for these students. The other program you referenced, Early Acceptance Program, same dynamic. It's for students who come to Tech, who are honors, who do well the first 2 years. The window would open up for them to apply to med school then, which is typically a year earlier than the earliest conventional applicant could apply. But for a certain number of honor students that successfully navigate that process, they get the same benefits. They know early of an admission to med school, and the med school also waives the MCAT for those. So one, it's a privilege to work in a system where that opportunity is available. And won't surprise you, the students who populate those, those two cohorts, absolutely amazing students. When I talked about me being 17, sitting in a director of missions office, I probably couldn't formulate a coherent sentence at that stage of life. These are students who have been admitted to med school. So it is amazing to be around them. And one, to see just they are impressive in ways even beyond that you would think they'd be impressive. And also, they're 17 and 18 years old. And it's so fascinating to be with that dynamic. And so they graciously endear me. My role, I think, primarily is sending a few corny dad jokes their way, particularly those that are medicine oriented. But we really kind of shepherd them, and the focus is for them to maximize their college experiences. They're not going to have to study for the MCAT and all the hours in blood, sweat, and tears a typical med school applicant would need to do that. So it's not that the thought is that just becomes free time for them. That we want to be filled with meaningful experiences. And that's, I think, where honors, we do that well with research, with study abroad. It's really inspiring when students are very intentional with their own initiative of proposing ideas, and us in conversation with the med school discerning what's the best way they can maximize their experiences. So it is a great group. We work in close partnership with your colleague Ryan and his great team at Pre-Professional Health Careers. Obviously, they're the experts with students moving into that type of profession, serving others through healthcare. But it's amazing. And I'll just give a quick example of one way this is meaningful to work with these students. Last summer, this was 2 summers ago, I got to reconnect with a student that I first got to know when I started at Tech and in honors. She was then a student leader. She was the head of our ambassador program. She had some other impressor. I believe she's an SGA. And she happened, when she was a senior, to be admitted through the UMC pathway. So successfully graduated from Tech, went on to med school here. Actually took a break after year 2 because she was invited to be a part of a prestigious research program at Harvard. So got to do that with another alum of ours, came back, resumed her studies. And summer before last, we found out she earned a residency, actually not too far from where you're at, Matt, at UC Irvine, and their very competitive dermatology residency. And it was amazing to hear that news, and that she has now been there a year. What's fascinating is through social media and just, mutual connections, hearing that it's been such a wonderful experience. And what I'm discerning is her name's Tina. Tina is benefiting those folks at UC Irvine in this competitive, dermatology residency in the same way she benefited us while she was a student. So it's really cool to see kind of having the long view of where these students go even after they are here at honors and then at med school.
Oh, for sure. It's almost like your tagline should be Honors College, endless opportunities.
Hey, you have to mark that. I'll send you some residuals.
Sweet. Appreciate that. Do you think there's any misconceptions that people might have, like whether it's a student, staff, anybody, when they hear honor student or honors college?
Oh, I'm sure there are. I think part of it is, honors is a term in education that doesn't just operate obviously in just one university or just in the university settings. Honors is a part of high schools. It's a part of junior high, elementaries. I mean, secondary and post-secondary. So I think part of what we dedicate some thought and effort to is recognizing that, and to talk about how honors is uniquely done in this context. And part of that is just having a sense of how honors is done in the schools that students are in, the high schools that they're in. And then like you do in the advising realm, Matt, having some collegiality with folks who do honors at other university settings, particularly university settings like ours. And what's really cool there is, one, recognizing context matters. So I know you guys have a great honors program at Cal State San Bernardino. the way it's operated, I'm sure, is a byproduct of the university, the mission, the vision, the geography. That's the same way it is at Texas Tech Honors. So it's cool to be a part of these consortiums where, one, just to throw ideas off each other. We benefit from that. We hope we are intentional about doing presentations about some of the distinctive things we do, and sharing that with our peers who do honors elsewhere. And in this meeting yesterday, our dean referenced a research article had been published about a cool initiative we've done called Honors Enhanced Courses. So it's cool kind of to see that being more broadly adopted. So I think what we strive to do well is to talk about what honors means here at Texas Tech, how we're distinct in our approach, how we have some distinctive opportunities, again, with the students' actual experiences, whether it's course, research, study abroad, funding, but also an intentionality of where this leads to as far as a springboard for success in the future. So, yeah, I think kind of the misconceptions, it's kind of a natural byproduct of honors operates in a bunch of different spheres. It should operate in a bunch of different spheres, and it should operate in distinct ways. It's just talking about how it's done here. And with that, knowing with providing that information thoroughly and authentically, having the student being able to discern if that makes sense for them. Again, we're not in a sales position where we're trying to push people in a direction where they wouldn't naturally go. If they discern after receiving what we've shared that this doesn't make sense for them, we want to still be there to equip them for success, but we know there's probably other ways that they'll go about doing that. So, yeah, I think having this is my first experience as a professional being in an honors environment. So I had to do some of that learning myself coming into it. And I think I draw some of that when we talk to folks who are considering honors and getting a sense of how it's uniquely done at Texas Tech.
Awesome. Now I want to go back because you mentioned from the previous answer about dad jokes at med school. Do you have any off the top of your head?
Oh, I knew, Matt. I knew when I said that I was setting myself up for failure. So I am now consulting, what I feel is the best source in the moment, because I've had to do this. I would like to think stealthily for when I talk to our med school students and I reference that, and then they say, "Well, what's a good dad joke?" And I say, "Well," and I get my phone out and try to find a nice GIF, or if Dr. Google can help me out.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to say using that same philosophy. Matt, the patient says, "Doctor, my child swallowed a pen. What should I do?" The doctor says, "Use a pencil." That's all I got for you.
Well, that's already made my morning, so I appreciate that. You passed. Hey, Chad, if you have a magic wand and you could fix one challenge, something in higher ed, what would it be and why?
Oh, wow. Matt, there's a few challenges in higher education in this time and place. You may have noticed that. I have too. If said magic wand made its way to my hand here, I think what I would like to do is to increase awareness of the committed professionals who do this work day in and day out, and how they're here to serve students. And I think parents need to hear that. I think policymakers need to hear that. I think sometimes we need to hear that, because doing this line of work the length of time that I have, I mean, part of the reason I'm still here is because I know if everything else goes downhill, I still standing shoulder to shoulder with people that I respect and that do amazing things. And when growth is up and to the right or down and to the right, they'll show up and do that work. So I think, and I do try, not with a magic wand, but in my small corner of the cosmos, try to emphasize that. Again, because I've been the beneficiary with my family and daughters who progress through. And two, it's just amazing at conferences that we get to go to, conversations like this, whether it's on a podcast or at a coffee shop, or just kind of fortuitously making connections with people, saying, well, you know what? There are people committed to this work, and most specifically the students that benefit from the work that we do. So I think broadening awareness of people like you populate this sphere, and we're all better for it.
I love it. And as we're kind of wrapping up, you serve on the executive board for the Ark of Hope Foundation, and you were paramount in getting the foundation established. I was hoping you can share a little bit more about this foundation and your connection to it.
Well, Matt, the word paramount you use is carrying a lot of weight there.
Hey, I will say that word was used on the website.
Oh, they're very nice. In all seriousness, this is actually a good exemplar of a lot of things that I had the privilege of doing with great students. Is this really? I mean, if I had to put a ratio to it, if I get to 1% of contributing to the success of this organization, then that's a huge achievement. 99+% is that student leaders who brought this off the ground. This organization in particular, the Ark of Hope Foundation, now operates on multiple college campuses, providing free healthcare screenings to folks in the communities where these universities serve. And it actually started here at Texas Tech with a group called Raider Medical Screening Society. To give credit where credit is due, it was the vision of a student, Becky Joseph, who I had the privilege of working with years ago, and she was in honors. And her bringing in some of her peers in the honors college, immediately organizing, activating, bringing the old ball guy into the mix, but them doing the work of having free healthcare screenings in this community to the underserved populations, and then having a vision to expand it. And so they are now in med school, and the Ark of Hope Foundation is the umbrella group by which these other college chapters operate to do this needed work and this amazing work. And Becky, to kind of bring it full circle, secured an amazing residency and is moving on to success. But doesn't always happen with student organizations that come from one person or a small group, which she was intentional about sustaining it for success after, life took her elsewhere, and the other student leaders who are part of it. So I have appreciated that intentionality because it's allowed the organization to continue to thrive under new leadership and other folks who have the mission and vision. But it really is an exemplar. I mean, I was, in this office here, we had some conversations about it. I signed a few documents, and they're very kind to bringing me into the mix. But it really is a great example of really great students who care, who want to give back, who want to make an impact doing it. And I just have the good fortune of having a front row seat.
Wonderful. And last question, with everything you have going on, how busy you are, what do you do for fun? What do you do for your wellness?
Oh, man. Matt, you think I've figured this out by now? I am not the exemplar of balance, wellness or otherwise. I do, though. I think as I've gotten a little more gray in the beard, a few more laps around the track, have found it's good to engage wholly in a whole way while we're doing the work. It's also good to disengage and to engage with other parts of our being that are meaningful with other things. At the intro, you read some of those things. I like to run. It is at a slower pace every day, but that's really my built-in therapist. Part of the privilege of me joining you in this conversation is I love good podcasts. That's become I'm becoming a voracious consumer of good podcasts. And so it's that, and then just, having the privilege every morning of kissing my wife and kids and grabbing a venti at Starbucks, and then coming and regardless of what's happening, knowing I had the privilege of being a part of an amazing community that operates here, but also operates in places like Cal State San Bernardino and so many other campuses where we have the privilege of impacting futures. And then after that, listening to an irreverent podcast or, reading, how the Dodgers did last night, and then rinse, wash, repeat.
Well, I was going to say I enjoyed this entire conversation, but until you mentioned the Dodgers,
I thought that might emote something from you, Matt. I'm glad to know I found a needle.
Yes, well, especially too when you came to campus, and then we went into David Defoe Hunter's office, and I saw the huge LA logo on his wall, and I said, "Oh, I thought I liked this guy too, but maybe not so much with sports."
We outnumbered you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a San Diego Padres fan, and I am hoping for the one day that they will win the World Series.
Well, I will not make any big brother, little brother references.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We were at a conference in November in lovely San Diego, right across the street from, is it
Petco Park? Yeah.
And I just, I don't always act this nobly because I have plenty of Dodgers attire, but did not have any Dodger blue on, walked around. They actually had, I think we're having a race. So a lot of runners were around and kind of gave a nod, kind of a hat tip, like, you know what, there's some good things that can happen over here too.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
but that nobleness will wear off very quickly. Once Fernando Tatis goes to Dodger Stadium and,
right.
The juices start flowing.
Yeah, and then it's all booze.
All right. Hey, it's opening day. Hope springs eternal for all of us.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Chad, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, and I really enjoyed this conversation.
Matt, thank you so much for your good work and for the invitation. Really is a privilege.